All right, everyone, this is my tutorial on how to easily gather fabric. It's a little trick that my fabulous aunt taught me. Basically, you gather using yarn. Now, this is the tablecloth that I have decided to go with. So this is actually my first square that I'm going to turn into a skirt, but it can't be that much different from a rectangle, but should be fine. So let's get this basically into two pieces. So I'm basically just cutting it in the middle and we'll tear in a straight line. Now I have two even pieces. So I'm gonna sew this into one piece. All right, everyone, here it is, the super secret how to gather lots of fabric very quickly, very fast with just yarn. When my aunt taught me how to do this, I was like, oh my gosh, how have you let me sew for so long without knowing how to do this? So now I'm going to teach you so you don't have to sew and gather 4 yards of fabric with one tiny little piece of thread. No, honey, not anymore, no longer. All right, so first we're gonna set up the machine. You wanna do a zigzag stitch, and you want it to be rather on the wide side. So I definitely, and then you want it to be a thicker, longer, as high as it'll go. Use some cheap yarn, it's just whatever. Got mine at Hobby Lobby. So you want to leave a tail and you want to center it pretty high because you want it to get hidden by your waistline eventually. All right, so as you can see, we're up pretty high on the end, and my presser foot, the yarn is right in the middle. So basically, you're going to zigzag stitch over the yarn and try not to catch the yarn. And off we go. All right, so I had it set at 5.0 and I'm actually gonna change it to 6 because I think it's just a little too tight for my comfort zone. And basically I'm just holding the yarn with one hand and guiding the fabric in the other so that the yarn stays right on that middle line of your presser foot. This makes gathering 4 yards of fabric like slicing through butter, I tell ya. You also want your yarn to have some give, so don't keep it, completely wrapped around. Give yourself some movement. All right, so now if all has gone according to plan, I haven't stitched over the yarn. Basically, I'm just gonna pull, and like I said, it's gonna be like slicing through some warm butter. The beginning piece, and let me zoom this out just a little bit so you can really see what I'm doing. Is that not like butter? Is that not amazing? Does that not amaze you? It amazes me every time I do it. Yeah, I have completely gathered that up, and I didn't even speed this up. It took seconds. Obviously this is not the size of my waist, so I'm going to end up, moving it around, but I just wanted to show you like how fast and simple that really was. I had this beautiful orange elastic that I decided to use for my waistline instead of doing a fabric one. So I'm just adjusting the gathers a little bit because obviously 2 yards completely gathered down does not equal my waistline. And I was totally showing off earlier. So basically I stretch the elastic and gather to that width. And first, what you want to do is anchor those 2 pieces of yarn. Take a long pin if you have it, and pin your right at the side seam, right where those 2 pieces of yarn come out, and then wrap around in a figure 8 style. Let me do a close up. Do that in a figure 8, and you're just going to lock that down so when you're gathering, it doesn't move on you. And then I take the elastic and I take one side and I'm going to pin that down. As I'm gathering, this locks down the elastic and will eventually be my pinning for when I sew the elastic to the skirt. And then I pinch the other side to find the side seam on that and pin it to the side seam of the skirt. This way, when I do gather the skirt, it's evenly gathered on the front and the back. All right, and now I'm going to adjust. As you can see, when I held that up open, the left side was way more gathered than the right side, so I'm just gonna even that up. It takes a little bit of time, but it is so much easier to do this on a big old piece of yarn than trying to do it on a single piece of thread. I mean, even if you double stitch, you know, two basting lines, it's still a tiny piece of thread. That thing gonna break on 4 yards of fabric. Where this is just smoother than molasses on a hot summer day. Basically, you're just gonna adjust, make sure it's all even, sew it on, and you know, I like to sew just below the yarn line so that the yarn can be pulled out once I'm done. Really easy and simple. And if it doesn't get pulled out because you sewed over it, no worries. Just cut it off and it's hidden in your seam allowance. No big deal. And there we go. Here's the finished skirt. Did you remember it was a square tablecloth, which was new for me? So I can't do my big old fluffers, but I have my more casual petticoat on. Good for a play date with the kiddos. I believe that it's gonna take me longer to edit this video than it actually did for me to make this skirt.